Matt Eberflus was defending Justin Fields in the offensive coordinator interviews. We talk about that next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
I'm going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube and hit that notification bell because tomorrow we will be live at 7:30 on YouTube to break down all the quarterbacks not named Caleb Williams. That's right. There's other quarterbacks not named Caleb Williams or Justin Fields. But I really wanted to just break it down as we get closer to draft time, just so we know what to watch out for and what the different types of quarterbacks are out there. Also, rate the show 5 stars if you haven't already. Out there anywhere that you listen to your podcast, especially Apple Podcasts, so you can be entered in the Darnell Wright jersey giveaway. What's going on, Bears fans? Today, we have some news to break down. Like I mentioned, the offensive coordinator interviews, a little bit of details actually came out of that on what was being discussed, and also why Chicago was actually seen as a very, very good destination. Let's get started with the first bit of news. This is pretty cool. Darnell Wright was voted to the Pro Football Writers of America All-Rookie Team. Let's give him some claps out there, guys, because that's impressive. Your first year, obviously the Bears traded back and then traded back again, and then you see Jalen Carter going ahead. Obviously, Darnell Wright was good. Darnell Wright was solid. Now, he did have some hiccups in his rookie season, but ultimately, Pro Football Writers really liked him and obviously was voted to the team. The other person that was voted at the tackle position, DeJuan Jones of the Cleveland Browns. So I got to say one thing. They did kind of cheat. They added 2 right tackles, but hey, Darnell Wright made it in, so I can't complain there. But I do find it very interesting that all the other tackles that we've talked about, Broderick Jones, Paris Johnson played a little bit of guard, but you don't see those other tackles, and I think this looks very good. But yet again, this is just one award, right? Yeah, like we can't make complete victory laps, but it does look good with Ryan Poles for picking someone that high when, like a Broderick Jones. I still think Broderick Jones looks good, but it's just a nice sign for Bears fans with Darnell Wright. But this did prompt us Bears fans to say, did anybody else get snubbed from this list? That was the only person that was added in. So I wanted to look around just to kind of see who else could have been snubbed. And the biggest snub that I saw people saying out there on Twitter was Tyreek Stevenson. Was he snubbed? Now, when you look at the list, I see Joey Porter Jr. and Devon Witherspoon, and I know some might hate me saying this, but I just don't think that Tyreek Stevenson had that full of a season because Devon Witherspoon, I thought, played consistently well. Joey Porter played consistently well. But if you took what Tyreek Stevenson did at the end of the season and you put that across the season, yeah, then I think he could make it. I think he just really shined at the very end of it, which I'll take. We said this at the very beginning of the season that Tyreek Stevenson needs time to grow. He's going to have ups and downs. And I think really he showed some awesome traits out there. And I know too, I saw some comments out there on YouTube talking about Jalen Johnson and saying, hey, Terrell Smith looks pretty darn good. Right? He looks very good. I think that there's a lot of promise with Stevenson. I just don't necessarily think he should have been there. And if anyone's curious about Javon Dexter, you look at the defensive line, they just kind of lumped it together. They had Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, Tuli Tuipulotu, and Kobe Turner as on the defensive line. To me, Javon played better than what I expected, and I thought that he progressed throughout the season. But yeah, those guys looked really freaking good. They were definitely like no one else got snubbed in my opinion. But yeah, if you disagree, let me know down in the comments. But let's get into the big news because what we are hearing, Albert Breer from the Monday Morning Quarterback wrote an article and was talking about the Chicago Bears offensive interviews. And it was a very, very cool thing to see because first off, the polls and the Bears were right. Kevin Warren was right because I know when they made the firing of Luke Getsy, I was for one concerned saying, why would someone want to come over to Chicago? Now, what Albert Breer said is on that I'd want, and this is like the full, like a little snippet from it. He said, I'd wonder whether it'd be tough for the Bears to find the right guy, given the perception that 2024 will be a make it or break it year for the football folks at Hallis. But because they moved fast, they were able to meet with a good range of people. They even traveled to California to sit down with Rams pass game coordinator Zach Robinson and USC's Cliff Kingsbury and sell their job to a guy who had some options. Of course, the chance potentially to coach USC's Caleb Williams was something mentioned to me as a drawing card by candidates for the job. And then in parentheses, though Eberflus did defend Justin Fields in the interviews as I understand it. So I want to kind of dissect this a little bit because throughout the article, they made it seem like a lot of people wanted to go to Chicago because of what is happening at number one. And a lot of this does kind of show off that, and I know that the Fields fans are not going to like this, but Caleb Williams is a big reason. And having that number one pick was a big reason for why this was actually a very attractive job, which I love to hear because I love the Chicago Bears, right? So Caleb Williams was one of those big reasons why people wanted to come over. So does that mean that Shane Waldron is 100% moving off of Justin Fields? No, it doesn't. But I do find it very interesting, though Eberflus did defend Justin Fields in the interviews as far as Albert Breer understands it. I think that's a key piece because when you talk about interviewing offensive coordinators and you talk about what to do, I think it's very easy for a head coach to say, you know what, Justin's gone, right? Like just between you and me and the wall, Justin's out of here. You can take whoever you want. You can have Caleb Williams. You can do whatever. I do think that Albert Breer does know a lot about what's going on in the league, and I do think that this is also the mentality of the Chicago Bears. The Bears don't know what they want to do at quarterback 100% right now. I feel anybody that tells you otherwise is just saying it because they want to be the first one to be like, see, I told you so. Ryan Poles doesn't know what he wants to do right now because he needs to evaluate everything and he needs to see the quarterbacks that are out there. And then obviously they need to talk amongst the staff and say, what should we do with Justin Fields? But Shane Waldron gives us a very good chance to do well and do great things. And I didn't say this yesterday, but I wish I did. Shane Waldron, to anybody that's hating out there with Shane Waldron, he gives you the best chance to win games. It's like when you're trying to shop for a car and you do a bunch of research on something and you figure out the best car possible. If the car breaks down, you should sleep well at night going, I did my due diligence. I did what I did. I grabbed the best car that's out there on Consumer Reports, right? And it broke down. It's just sometimes crap happens. But the Bears, to me, got the best car they could with the offensive coordinator of Shane Waldron. And I have more stats that I'll throw out in some future videos as to why it was an even better hire. Yes, I have more statistics to throw out at all of you. But let's go to the last thing. So speaking of Shane Waldron, there is a rumor that's been going on. This is not news. This is more of just rumors that I see circulating around X that's going out there. Is Tyler Lockett going to the Chicago Bears? That is something that a lot of people are already kind of clamoring for and talking about because obviously he's been the wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks and has had a lot of great success. And you look at this too, his contract right now, if he were to be cut, they would save $16.9 million. And this year his last year is next year. So it does make sense for them to cut him and save all that money. But also, what are you going to get out of him? Tyler Lockett is 31 years old. He's 5'10", 182. And I remember looking back at this with Devontae Adams. When you look at older receivers, I think that it's very, like, not a lot of people talk about this, but when receivers hit the age of 30, their production significantly drops off. And then you only get like an Adam Thielen that just keeps on trucking. But production does drop off. But this year, Tyler Lockett 79 receptions on 122 targets for 894 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's not a bad season by any stretch of the imagination, and the year before that had 1,033 yards and 9 receptions. I think if he were to be released, I think that he would be a solid pickup at least. But I don't think he's going to be this transformant receiver that the Bears have to get. If you can get him for a reasonable deal, and he understands this offense, that can help when you draft a young wide receiver and bring them in. And if you can get him for a halfway decent deal as he's riding off into the sunset, I don't really hate that, because you want to have good receivers around whoever is at quarterback, whether that's Justin Fields, whether that's Caleb Williams, whether that's Drake May. You want to have the best receivers possible. I do think that Lockett is probably going to hit free agency due to the large cap hit, so it is definitely something to look out for, and I think that there is a good possibility that the Bears bring him in for a lot of the veteran leadership and the knowledge of the system. But speaking of quarterbacks, make sure to like and subscribe so that you can attend the live show tomorrow as we break down the other quarterbacks not named Caleb Williams. I hope to all see you there. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and